Okay, the purpose of factoring is to find the zeros of a function. Okay? One of the reasons that we really factor a lot is to use it to find the zeros of a function. Now, in other previous math classes, you probably remember processes to help you factor. For example, in this kind right here, where there's not, where there's just like a 1 at the beginning, you find the factors of 20. There's 1 and 20. There's 2 and 10. There's 4 and 5. And you pick the two that add to give you the middle number. So you find the factors, and then you try to get 9 from those factors. So 4 and 5 works. And then you write out 2 parentheses, x and x, 4 and 5. They both need to be plus to give me the 9. You probably remember in previous classes doing stuff like that. However, I'm going to show you another way using Desmos to do it. It might make it a little bit quicker. And in the future, in some of the other things we might do with factoring, it might help you to be able to use Desmos a little bit and go back and forth instead of having to do a long process, especially when you get to this one over here. I don't know what you remember about factoring in other classes, but this kind right here is pretty involved. If you were in my class, you did factor by grouping, and it was kind of a long process on these harder kinds, and you could do it, but it just takes a little bit more time. So I'm going to show you another way that will help you when you factor. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Desmos, and I'm going to start with the first one. And it was x squared plus 9x plus 20. Okay? Most of these will come out to be quadratics. Okay? What you want to do is you want to start by finding the zeros. Okay? So you click on the zeros. Our zeros are -5 and -4. Okay? Let's go back to the question. So the zeros on this problem right here was -5 and 4. Okay? Using the zeros to factor that, you just write 2 parentheses and then you change the sign. So instead of -5, I'm going to write +5. Instead of +4, I'm going to write -4. That's not right. Because obviously, I didn't type it in wrong, or no, it's a negative and I didn't write that down. So let's go back. It was a -4 right there. So I had to change that to a positive. There we go. And see, notice that's what I got originally with trying to find factors that add to give me that. Okay? So if we start with the zeros and then make your parentheses and change the signs, that might make it a little bit easier. Okay? So let's do that in the next one. Let's figure out what the zeros are for x squared minus 2x minus 15. X squared minus 2x minus 15. All right. Our zeros are -3 and 5. And then how do we write those factors? So write your parentheses, x and x, because we're talking about x squared. -3 and 5, so change your signs. +3 minus 5. Alright, let's look at 3. Number 3 was x squared plus 3x minus 10. The zeros are -5, -5 and 2. And then so we write x plus 5, x minus 2. Okay. Alright, on the last one, x squared minus 12x plus 20. Scoot this over just a tad. Alright, we've got 10 and 2. So we would have x minus 10, x minus 2. And that's just the easier way to find it instead of having to think about the factors and trying to get the middle. Okay. Now I want to show you that this will work as well on the harder kind. Like I said, the harder kind, when you've done factoring before, you probably did some grouping and that kind of thing, and that totally works. But I want to show you how that works with the zeros as well, because I think it's important for you to go from the zeros to the factors. So we're going to go ahead and factor this one, 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. Now what's going to happen whenever you have a number at the beginning is you're probably going to end up with some decimals. You will not always just end up with whole numbers when you have a number at the beginning. Okay? Now, you might need to write these as fractions. Okay, I really don't care if you write them as decimals, but if you're looking at some multiple choice or matching or whatever, you might need to know these fractions. If you don't know the fraction, you can always put it over here, negative 1.5, and then press this little fraction button beside of it. That's negative 3/2. I'm going to ask you to write it in fractions so I can show you how to come up with the answers that you need for the problems that you're going to be looking at. So we know it's negative 1.5 or negative 3/2 and negative 1. So the zeros are negative 3/2 and 1. Okay? So now, if I try to write it out, just like I did over here, I'm going to have x plus 3/2 and x minus 1. Okay? Now here's the problem. Okay? If you wrote that down as the factors, I'm good with that. However, if you're trying to match it or do some multiple choice, it's not going to come out exactly like that. Okay? What's going to happen is, you see this number that's on the bottom, that 2? You've got to multiply that 2 by the things in the parentheses. Okay? So this number right here has to be multiplied by the things in the parentheses. The x minus 1 just stays. Okay, whatever's not a fraction, it just stays. But whatever is a fraction, you got to get rid of the fraction after you write it. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the x by 2, and when I multiply this by 2, the 2's just go away. So you end up with 2x plus 3. So it's kind of like 2 just multiplies by the x, and then the 2 goes away here, and you just get 3. Okay. Try the next one, find those zeros, and then we'll talk about how you factor it. All right, 5x squared plus 13x plus 6. All right, we find those zeros. Negative 2 and negative 0.6. Again, just put that negative 0.6 in here. Change it to a fraction. Alright, so let's say what we have again. We've got negative 2 and we've got negative 3/5. So our zeros are negative 2 and negative 3/5. Okay. So the negative 2 one's pretty easy. X plus 2. This one's not so hard. Just change the sign. Okay. When you have a fraction, take that bottom number, multiply it, change it. So we're going to have x plus 2. The 5 multiplies by the x. And then when you multiply 5 by that, the 5 goes away. So you get x plus 2 and 5x plus 3. Okay, let's go ahead and graph 2x squared plus 13x minus 7. 2x squared plus 13x minus 7. Alright, that's 0.5 and negative 7. You probably know 0.5, but if you don't, you remember you can put it here and change it to a fraction. So I know it's 1/2. Like I said, you probably knew that one, but anyway. So we've got 1/2 and negative 7 as my zeros. So x minus that one, change the sign on that one. Remember the fraction one, that number has to be multiplied. Got to get rid of it. So it would be 2x minus 1 and then x plus 7. Now one more thing I want to just show you real quick. If you ended up with something like 0.333333 and it just keeps going forever, you might just need to know that one, because see, if I just put 0.33 right there, it's not going to work. Now if I keep putting a whole lot of 3's, it eventually might change it for me. But that one you might need to know is 1/3. And then there's another one, it's the 0.666 one, and it ends up with a 7 if you round it. Again, it's going to take a whole lot of them before it changes it for you, but eventually it will, and it becomes 2/3. Those two are kind of tricky whenever you're seeing them because you can't put the whole thing in there. The other ones are usually really easy to change, like I showed you. But those two you might have to put a whole lot of numbers to get it to change for you.